We pretty much have the money.
Okay.
I mean,
So we can go ahead.
it's not like it's a competitive grant where, you know, like I pretty much know it. I submit the preliminary application and then we get the official, yes, go ahead. And I'm, you know, I'm waiting until we kind of refine the project a little bit before I submit that application. But then it's all reimbursement. Like
So we can finalize our price.
So we have to create a pilot project, right?
We can finalize the price?
Yeah, we would need to, because we would need to give them a budget, even if it's,
Okay.
you know, it doesn't have to be super detailed, the budget. Yeah.
But it would be super detailed if we built the boarding.
Harry, how are you? Hello?
Folks,
Hello, how are you?
I am zoomed out.
Yeah.
Zoomed out, right?
Yeah, I've been in an all-day anti-racist training, so Yeah, I'm zoomed out. So I am here.
Okay. Harriet, how are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I can't complain. So,
That's good.
not terrible. Kids didn't drive me up a wall today, so
That's good.
I'm all right. So,
They're still at home, right?
yeah, hybrid, Tuesday and Thursday, school, and then remote at Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So, for now, let's see what happens in the next coming
It'll be a
weeks.
rough
So,
winter, so we just got.
oh, yeah. So, I'm gonna go back and get my degree in education after all the teaching I've done.
Hey everybody,
Patrick, what's up?
what's going on? So I know I can't like stay on too late tonight, and I know everyone's had a long day. I know what Kim mentioned also about like just having a long day on Zoom, and I'm definitely feeling the same way. But we are gonna be coming up to some deadlines soon, so I just wanted to touch base on how people feel about just dividing up our two topics a little bit to see if we can spend a little bit more time on them individually, because we do have two topics. We have training and equipment. So I know Kim and Harriet have had a lot of input, and Rosemary as well, about training. So I was wondering if you guys wanted to help come up with obviously from the outline that we started, but come up with a couple of our key like bullet points on what we want to propose in our requests. And then I was thinking that Brian and myself could also work together on the equipment factor, on what maybe some of our recommendations or requests would be when it comes to equipment. And there will be a little bit of overlap, of course, like we've talked about body cams and stuff like that. But yeah, I wanted to see how you guys feel about dividing and conquering, since we're kind of coming down to the home stretch of we just have a few weeks left to really come up with our proposal.
I'm okay with that.
Sure.
You guys?
Whatever you need.
Okay.
Okay, great. So yeah, so I can I will send some more information too from my visit, from when I did go to the police department. And if anyone had that interest to do that as well, remember they extended that opportunity to anyone in the committee if you would like to go there to visit and to ask more about trainings. So what I could do too is connect you via email to the captain and to the sergeant who I met with when I was there regarding trainings, if you want to get a little bit more of information on trainings, or if you have any other questions on trainings. But I feel like we have a lot of great asks down on paper, like just from our initial outline. I think we have a lot of great things. It's just a little bit more formalizing what we're gonna like ask and request for the changes to be. But I know we a lot of us are like familiar with some of our key topics of you know, not just doing police bias, but really doing anti-racist training, not just doing not just having necessarily de-escalation throughout everything, but making sure there are specific things about trauma too. So yeah, I also wanted to see like the next couple of weeks, like what the best times to meet are, because we'll have to like schedule with Karen to do this, like for her to set up the Zoom. So I just kind of wanted to do a quick inquiry to like, what's the best night for you? Like I kind of just threw it together tonight so that we could at least touch base and like plan the next steps as a subcommittee. But like, what's the best night for you? What time? Because I know everyone's got a lot of things going on in their lives personally and work-wise. So I kind of want
You muted yourself, Patrick.
I could also reach out to Rosemary and we could get her availability.
Right.
I don't know. I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, sorry, about best nights and days that are like to meet as a subcommittee over the next few weeks, just because I know we have like the holiday coming up, so maybe we could meet one of the days before Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So, wow, it's next week. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow,
next week
okay.
I'm open.
Is
Yeah.
Monday evening, like, is this like an okay kind of night for you guys?
That's
This week,
okay.
yes. Moving forward, for the 30th and the next 2 Mondays in December, I'll be on a all-day training from
Okay,
10:30 to 5.
Yeah, okay. So we could do, so maybe we'll do the next Monday, and then next Monday when we do speak, we could plan ahead for the next one, for the next 2 weeks. Cause yeah, so that's basically, that brings us into early December, and that is when they're gonna start, they're gonna wanna start going over our official like requests, like our
Oh, right,
official,
right.
yeah. So I know they're trying to put a move on it fast, but at the same time, like I said, I think we already are on the same page about a lot of the key topics that we want to present. It's just more so like finalizing. And I know I've talked about this a few times with you guys, and Brian, I know I asked this like at length when I was there, is like, how many hours do you commit to this now? And then how many hours like do we want to propose that they commit to it in the future? Because their time is limited, for training and stuff like that. But some things like trauma just needs to be done like yearly or bi-yearly and have like a certain amount of time devoted to it. So I know we feel strongly on those things. So it's just like, what will that increase be? And, we're trying to keep it reasonable. So that's where I could share the sergeant, his information with you guys as well too, in case you have any other just like questions on specifics when it comes to time. But I have most of that. Most of it's pretty minimal, and it's done. What's that called, Brian? When you guys do like your yearly
In-service
update?
training.
In service.
In-service
Yeah.
training. Yep.
Yeah, so when you do your yearly in service. So we're trying to see where we can just like, bridge the gap with a couple key topics that we feel like most important, and put a little bit more time and emphasis on them.
Patrick, what was the trauma one again? I'm drawing a blank on this.
So
The
trauma, you guys did it like the information that I received was that you guys did it like 2 years ago via WJCS, 2 or 3 years ago via WJCS, that they came in and did it. So I still have to get that curriculum and some logistics on that, Kim. So I'm gonna try, once I get that information from WJCS, I'll send it out to you guys. But I'm gonna try to contact them over there and track down who did the training, what the curriculum was on, what the model was, and then if we have any adjustments to that. Because, Kim, we might have something, and Harriet as well. We might know of something, or something that we might want to suggest that maybe is being used through like DCMH or FSW or my sister's place. Like we might have a recommendation based on different training models for trauma that we know of.
Actually, Patrick, I think if it was WJCS, it was probably a pretty clinical training on trauma. I'm okay with going with. I want to know what WJCS did, but I mean, we use them for mental health support for our clients.
Yeah.
So whether it's DCMH or WJCS or whoever, I think the important thing is to focus on a clinical, as clinical for lay people idea of trauma. And it's not just trauma, but it's also providing trauma-informed responses. I think that's the most important thing also, because I don't think people, and this is for law enforcement or just civilians or whoever, understand that the response to trauma is based on people's lived experience. And I think that's where things get lost in translation. It's not just, I'm not just responding, but it's because there's something about this interaction that's triggered the way that I'm responding. I think that's the piece.
Exactly. I agree. And yeah, trauma responsive, and
Don't we
having
want to
that be a
involve
part
the
of that
community?
training. What's
I
that?
think. Well, I mean, it's something that my people brought up a lot, is peer training with people in the community, and people with trauma or people with mental illness can explain it sometimes the best.
Yeah, and that's something that, we could, see what WJCS did in the past, and if that's something that they would want to do. And that's where maybe someone like a partnering agency that we all do work together very closely, like someone like Family Ties could come in and maybe co-lead a training with WJCS. There's a lot of creativity that we could do. And I always like having that involvement of like peer-led, peer-driven. So that's a good point too. I'll make sure to ask WJCS about that, and how we can maybe incorporate that.
Like we could work with groups like My Sister's Place,
Right.
the Independent Living Center, and bring these sources that we already have in the community into it together. Both.
I'm sorry, pardon me, but I'm still not clear on what you mean by the trauma response. I'm not.
So Ryan, can I jump in, Patrick?
Yeah,
go ahead.
So when we talk about a trauma-informed response, and I'm giving it to you from the perspective of My Sister's Place, we know that clients come into our office because of domestic violence, right? They call our hotline because of domestic violence. But we also know that people come to us they come to us with the experience of having been in a car accident or having survived an illness. And so we understand when we talk about having a trauma-informed approach to treating our clients, we're talking about how we recognize that they're bringing all of their experiences into our office. So the way that a client is always looking over their shoulder when they're in the office, that's a response to trauma that they have experienced, that hypervigilance. When a client jumps over like a loud noise, or not even a loud noise, because they smell something, and then all of a sudden they start crying.
Yeah, right. No, I understand.
Okay, that's what we mean by a trauma-informed, not understanding trauma, but having a trauma-informed response. So when you see someone react a certain way, you're thinking, what else has happened in this person's life that is causing this response?
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. I think that would be important for, I don't know, I know this is police reform, but just in the last 2 weeks, in terms of trauma for police officers as well, we had somebody jump off the Walmart building, commit suicide, and we had a 9-month-old baby drowned in a bathtub. And I know that, that's stuff that we see too, that is, you don't unsee that. I'll put it to you that way.
No. So Brian, then I have a question for you about that. Mm-hmm. What kind of training do you all get, or what kind of support do you get to process those experiences?
I would say that you'd have to request it yourself individually. It's not that it's not there. It's that have you heard of the Westchester Blue Foundation?
No.
That deals with suicide prevention, drug addiction, substance abuse, things like that. If you need they have mental illness counselors to talk to for, if one of the worst things I've ever seen in my entire career, in my entire life, is a man lit himself on fire and committed suicide by lighting himself on fire. And that was something that I couldn't, for days I couldn't sleep after seeing that. And, that was someone the department would recommend you to speak to, because for you to get it out, for you to explain, hey, how did you feel about that? What was it like? Make it real. Sometimes there's other police officers that can share an experience like, hey, you know what? I had that happen to me too. And I know exactly what you're feeling, that, I remember showing up and this is what I saw. And I remember the smell and so I think that would be important for police officers as well, because there are so many things that we see that shouldn't be seen. And I just would request almost a trauma response, what you're suggesting for us as well, because there's things that I believe that we should have some sort of counseling as well for those types of scenarios, circumstances.
So Brian, I think what you're talking about is vicarious trauma.
I'm sorry?
I think what you're talking about is vicarious trauma. So it's the way that you process what has happened to you and how that comes out, or trauma fatigue, which is something that we talk a lot about at My Sister's Place, like a constant storytelling and how we absorb those stories, and then how that impacts our ability to function as counselors or educators or lawyers. So we have to find a place to process that, because it impacts our ability to function. That's vicarious trauma. And so when you see, so thinking about that person who died by self-immolation, when you might see something in your, like, you might be walking to the supermarket and you might see something that would trigger that memory of that person self-immolating, and you're going to respond out of that. That's vicarious trauma.
Ah, okay. Cool. I didn't know that because it's a smell.
Would you think that they asked you, like, if when these things happen, if they, rather than waiting for you to ask, you know, not necessarily force, but sort of in a forceful way, sort of suggest, like, you know, like someone's committed suicide, you were there, the people, officers who were there should be encouraged or almost pushed into therapy maybe. So I know some police wives feel that, not
I mean,
pushed, but just encouraged, because you said sometimes
Strongly
you have to
encouraged.
ask
I
for
would
it.
say encourage is
Yeah,
probably
I don't mean any
encourage.
force, because I
Right.
think that wouldn't work, but more encouragement.
I agree. I think that absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. I think encouragement would be fantastic for stuff like that.
Right, like if someone, you know, another police officer was saying, well, we know this happened.
Right. Sure.
Okay. And I'm glad you asked, Brian, because it's important to clarify.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to vicarious, what did you say that?
So it's vicarious trauma
Vicarious trauma.
is what the helping people experience when we hear stories or witness experiences. We witness someone dying by suicide or self-immolation. How do we absorb that? But trauma-informed care is also how we look out and see the world around us and recognize that the people that we're serving are experiencing various traumatic experiences, and how do we keep in mind, how do we develop a lens that allows us to see that their response to us is not about us, but it may be about what they've experienced in their life.
Right. Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
I never heard that before.
Do you guys get
so-
all training to recognize different types of mental illness or neurological conditions like autism and cognitive disabilities? Because, you know, it's not always really apparent, and these interactions can be kind of difficult sometimes. People are kind of not behaving necessarily in a way you would expect, or but do you get that does everyone get that training, or is that something that's not happening now? I'm thinking not.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I would say probably not.
But you were not, right?
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, off the top of my head,
I think that would be helpful, because statistically, a lot of the a lot of the violence that happen around the country with police interactions, some 1 in 4 has a mental illness.
Right.
And these interactions are complicated and hard for the police, but yeah. There was that PAC idea that they brought up today of partnering kind of with other organizations and that have experience with this sort of training beyond what the police do. Sort of like a crisis intervention team, but sort of a broader concept, maybe with community groups. But I don't know if police would be, but if like a few officers who sort of had that interest or a little bit more knowledge in the area could be point people.
Sure.
To keep sort of a connection with the community.
Okay.
I don't know. It's hard. I almost feel like we should keep this up, not up, but we should have some level of monitoring after the fact, because we're going to make these decisions, and we haven't had the time to fully investigate kind of what goes on in the police force, and then it'll be implemented by somebody else, and just to make sure that it goes well, or, you know, it's like all fine to sit out on paper, but then the reality of implementing it might be.
Guys, I have to get off. I am worn out, and I just cannot I can't say another word. I'm done. Fried, crispy,
No
I'm
problem.
toast. Yeah.
It's all right. I definitely made some notes on the topics we talked about. I'm just gonna send you guys again our list of our original outline of notes. So take some time and touch base on that. Review it over like the next week. I'll reach out to you guys individually on a few topics that we've talked about. Brian, I'll touch base with you on some equipment questions and stuff. And by next week, we'll get some more of our real like asks like formulated down on paper. So if you can, just over the next week, and like I said too, just remember to, you can reach out to the police department. You could always reach out to Chief Castelli or Brian or others to see if you could set up a time to come by and check some things out, or speak to the sergeant on training, which I'll send his information out. I have his card as well. So yeah, everyone get some rest. I'll just send these notes out, and then we're gonna definitely meet next Monday, and then from there we'll find a day that works better for people for the next 2 weeks.
All right. Thanks, Patrick. You guys have a good night.
You
No
too.
problem.
Chris,
Hang
you
in there,
want
be
me to
safe.
set it up for next Monday?
Yeah, I didn't know you were on there. We could
I
definitely
am, I
set
was
one up
just about
for
the other
next
thing. So,
Monday. I would say 5:30.
5:30, Monday the 23rd.
Yeah.
Okay,
With me.
got it.
Okay. Thanks so much, Karen.
You're
All
welcome.
right.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And yeah, I'll be
Sounds
touching
good.
base with you, and we'll get
All right.
we'll get everything in order.
All right. Have a good week. Take it easy, guys.
All right, take
Have a
care.
good night.
Bye.